Hello again, everyone. Just wanted to quickly say a few words as usual. Thank you so much for joining us. If this is the first time you're joining here, I just wanted to remind that please make sure to keep yourself muted. If you have any questions, you can put the questions on the chat function and Guillermo will be able to see and answer them along the way. And you can also unmute yourself when the question is being answered, if you would like to. Other than that, I'll go ahead and put in the chat box the link where you can find the previous episodes and sessions if you would like to rewatch them, or if you have missed and like to catch up with the sessions. This is our third session this week. We have the last one happening next Tuesday at the same time, and it's going to be that one is going to be about the live streaming platforms. This is more about, as far as I can tell, Guillermo will explain it in details, but more about overlays, how to use your screen and your live stream. And I guess that's it. And I'm gonna just spotlight Guillermo's video and then leave the virtual mic to him.
Sweet. Thanks so much, Huma. One second. I'm just making sure that I only leave the screens that I need in there. Is one of the problems of having so many screens up. I think it looks pretty good. So yes, thanks everyone. Welcome again. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about overlays and how to use programs such as OBS, for example, to be able to, spice up your stream a bit more. Just on a note before I start, right now I have my ATEM, which is the Blackmagic video switcher. I have it connected to my Windows computer, while I have my my Camlink, the Elgato capture card that I was recommending before, connected to my Mac. I've been noticing that lately there's some issues going on with the Camlink. One of my clients was having some problems where apparently his computer only has USB 2 ports. And it seems that, yeah, it's acting up. So right now I have it connected to a USB 3 port, but I'm seeing every now and then there's some like weird crossing lines that are happening. Again, that's the only reason why I'm using the Camlink today is because I want to show you OBS on Windows. It works in very similar fashion in both of them, but then this way I'll be able to explain everything to you a bit easier. Before I do, I also want to make it so that I can hear myself. That's great. And then maybe I'll make it a bit louder too. Hey, hey. Yeah, those two are good. And I'm going to share my screen now. First, I'm going to share the Mac screen, mainly to just, again, like I've done every class, just sort of walk you a little bit how I have connected this system. Again, you don't need the Blackmagic devices, or you also don't need UAD interfaces. But again, just like every time, I'm gonna keep recommending them because, for example, right now I have the microphone connected directly to the stream or to this Zoom call, basically, and it allows me to really like prep up the signal. Let me just turn off all these things so that you can hear a little bit of how it is originally. This is if you were just using your microphone connected to the source. But then, as you can see, each of the different plugins that I have in console, which again is the control panel for universal audio interfaces, allows me to really make the signal a bit better. Some of the things I have, again, is just the mic simulator for the L22 Townsend microphone I'm using. I don't have any what are those called, sponsors or endorsements with them with the L22, but again, I love this microphone, so it's really good. It's mimicking an M49. Then I have it going to this channel strip that has a bit of compression. If I turn the compression off, you'll hear the difference it makes. I have a bit of EQ here as well, just some low end. And then the new update for UAD includes this C-Suite is called. It's by Cedar, which is a company that makes software and hardware that is very similar to Isotopes RX. For those of you who work with audio, you might be familiar with RX. It's a lifesaver. It's a program that allows you to really clean up a lot of audio, mostly in post. Like, for example, every time I've had to work with a guitar track that has a lot of hum, as long as you have some samples of that hum, like just don't start playing right away, but leave a few seconds of the guitar open with the noise that you normally get, you're able to delete that noise like surgically almost. It's pretty amazing. So this is similar to that, but it's real time, right? So right now you can hear it a little bit, but if I get rid of the attenuation, then you start hearing the fans and all the different noises that I have here. But you know, as I bring it up a little bit, you see how it starts going down. Obviously, the attack is going to change. It's going to change how quick you can hear me as soon as I start talking. And same thing with the decay. Like if I were playing an instrument, I most likely would not have that on. But right now for voice and from what I'm doing, it works really well. So that's for the audio part. Again, the other piece of software I use a lot that I love is the program called Loopback. I think I'm hearing someone there. Let me make sure that I mute you. Great. Awesome. You can unmute yourself later on. I was just hearing some noise in the background. And let me share my screen again. And also let me see what audio. I have Pro Tools going, but I don't see signal here for some reason, but you can hear me, so that's good. Anyway, I'm connecting the microphone, as you see, from channel 9, which is where I have the microphone connected, to both left and right of this virtual sound card. And that's what I've selected. Check. I think you can't hear me anymore. 1 second, please. Hey. Yeah, you can. Weird. Okay, Loopback is acting up today. Let me know at any point on the chat if you stop hearing me. It's normally I would be seeing signal here, and that's the part that I find very confusing. But I see signal on the microphone as well, so we'll just keep going. Anyway, this program allows me to really connect any sort of application I have and send them to a virtual card. Does Loopback perform the same function as Voicemeeter Banana in Windows? Similar, but I would say Loopback is way more versatile because with Voicemeeter, for example, if you're using a program like Reaper or Ableton or any DAW, some of them allow you to select an output to them that's different than the input. So you can have your microphones through your Focusrite and then the output be the Voicemeeter output. But if you're using Pro Tools, for example, your input has to be the same as the output, which means that Voicemeeter wouldn't work as well. Also, I find it gets kind of weird with sample rates too. If any of your devices on your Windows computer is on a default 44.1, let's say, for sample rate kilohertz, and your Focusrite is at 48 kilohertz, then you might get some weird things happening. I've used Voicemeeter a few times. It works really well, but I'll go over that part again. If you're on Windows, I would still recommend using Restream, which is the free plugin that comes with Reaper that allows you to connect that, to put that plugin on the master fader and then send the signal of whatever's happening on your DAW to the stream as well. So yeah, so that's the audio part. For the video part, right now, again, I'm using the Camlink Elgato, and I have that connected directly to Zoom. Like if we go to the settings here, you see that my microphone source is Pro Tools again, or PT, which is what I've called this virtual device. which again has no meters. Again, I'm not understanding how that's working right now, but it is. The speaker, which again is you, right? That's everyone else, is my interface so that I can hear you on my headphones when you talk. I also have some settings for high fidelity music mode, echo cancellation. You could have this off if you want. I'm wearing headphones anyway, but things are working right now, so I don't want to play with it too much. And stereo audio as well, so that if I start panning things to different ways, you can hear that panning too, and make use of the stereo field as well. And for the video, as you see, yeah, I have Camlink as my source. But I would be able, do I have this camera connected? Yeah, so this is the webcam, again, completely different look, and the camera is way wider. So, I have it just for the example sake, but obviously most of the time I'm gonna be using the Sony camera, which is a Sony A6500. This time I've put the 35 millimeter lens with 1.2 f-stop or aperture. What else? I have it on original ratio because it's 1920 by 1080, and it is on HD as well. So I'm going to share my screen from my Windows computer, and in order to do that, I'm going to change the source to NDI. So just give me 1 second, please. Actually, I'm going to show you how I'm doing this. So remember that in the last class, I was showing you about Ndi Tools. Let me just put it here, Ndi Tools. So they're by NewTek, which is a company that makes all these tools for free. They have some paid ones, and they also develop some cameras, I believe now, and they all work really well. But yeah, we have the NDI Studio Monitor, screen capture, webcam input, screen capture, HX, VLC plugin, HX driver, etc., etc. I recommend downloading this if you haven't yet. When you click on download, it's going to ask you to say your name and your company. You can just make up anything there, and then you'll receive a link that you can access through your email, and then you can download the tools. Again, they're free. But what they do is that they allow me to do the following. Right now, for example, on my Mac computer, I've opened the program called, or the application called NDI Virtual Input. And when I open it, all it shows is NDI Virtual Input at the top. However, when I click on Sources, then I'm able to select any NDI source I have. So for example, right now, I have my NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti, which is really just the name of my Windows computer. If I were to open my phone and open the application that I showed you last time as well, that's called NDI HX, as you can see there, then I would be able to also select it as a source here. As you can see now, it's showing iPhone NDI HX. So for example, if I select iPhone 8 NDI HX, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And right now, again, you're seeing the camera feed, which comes from the Sony camera. But if I change the source to be, let's go to video, and I'm going to select NDI video, then you'll see the signal coming from my phone, right? Again, that's happening because I'm using that NDI virtual input, NDI virtual webcam, sorry, application on the computer. However, I'm gonna change the, let's go here, and I'm gonna change the source of the NDI back to the NVIDIA, which is the Windows computer. And now you can see my screen from my Windows computer, which again is not connected to the Mac at all. It's not going through any HDMI capture cards. It's not going through it's not going through any sort of video capture. It's really just being selected through the internet, or through the Ethernet, or the LAN network, basically the local area network. And how I do that is by opening another device or another application. So in this case, I'm using NDI Screen Capture HX, as you can see there. And when I click on it, you'll see that it allows you to select the video bandwidth. In this case, I'm going to change it to high. And also, the video resolution, I've just left it as the monitor because I believe it's 1080. Let's just change it to 1080 to be safe. What else? I also want you to see the mouse. So I've selected their capture cursor. So now you can see the mouse there as well. On full screen, the test is quite pixelated, but a good solution. Right. That might be, yeah. Zoom gets a bit weird with text, I found. Original sound is on. Let me just make sure that my settings are good here. For video, touch-up appearance, yeah, all that stuff is good. I will probably be getting something similar with an HDMI cable, to be honest, but let me know if any part it gets too hard to read. I am seeing that pixelation here as well. Yeah, no, we won't open any of that for now. Anyway, so OBS is a free program. It stands for Open Broadcaster Software. It's open source, which means that they allow any developer to create plugins or different, different add-ons you can get for the program itself. If you don't have it yet, download it. You just go to the obsproject.com, and they have versions for Windows and for Mac and for Linux as well. So yeah, for example, in this case, I would have gone to Windows. It's downloading there, as you can see. The downloader is pretty small, so it's relatively easy to install. And if you're on Windows and Mac, actually, it does come with the virtual camera. However, I've been getting reports, and it's happened to me as well, that the OBS virtual camera in Windows makes Zoom kind of freeze up for some reason. I've had it too, where you select virtual camera, and then inside of Zoom you select the OBS virtual camera as your input, and Zoom just freezes, and then you have to quit and select something else. NDI ends up working well for that as well. But yeah, I've already downloaded it, so I already have it. And let's open it here. We're gonna go to OBS. By default, when you open it, I believe it's just gonna look like this, right? But here on the right, we have different controls. We have start streaming, which you're not gonna need yet. Start recording, which allows you, again, to record. Yes, virtual camera is now built into OBS by default. That's what the update said on the website, which again works well for Mac, even though the audio is not transferred, I believe. But on Windows, works well for other applications. But Zoom is having some issues with it. Try it and let me know. But yeah, you have to start streaming, start recording. You have to start virtual camera, which is what we were just talking about here with Randy, that allows you to basically create a virtual output for your program output in OBS. We also have studio mode, which it basically gives you a preview and then a program. So think of this as your backstage, basically. I would recommend having it on studio mode if you're wanting to create changes on a scene that you're not sending to the stream right now. You want to maybe add some text, or you want to change the layout. Doing it this way allows you to create any change you want in here, and then once you're ready, to push it into the actual live feed. If you don't want to complicate things too much, then just leave it on non-studio mode, which is this mode. But then be careful, because anytime you click on any scene here, that scene is going to be live as well. So you can't really edit anything in the background while your stream is going. Yeah, so let's just look at some of the settings that we have here. Obviously, you have language. You have different themes as well. As you can see, that one looks pretty good, but for now, I think let's just leave it on the default. By the way, Streamlabs OBS is another solution that is a version of OBS that has been primed for Streamlabs, which is another streaming platform. But just so that you know, a lot of the plugins that you can add to OBS, you can't really add on Streamlabs OBS. So try to use this one first. You can still connect to Streamlabs if that's how you're using it. And it's a bit more versatile. So open stats dialog on a startup, you can have some of these things set up. Output show confirmation dialog when started stream, we can have that on. Show confirmation dialog when stopping streams. Automatically record when streaming, you might not want to have that on if you have very little hard drive space, for example. A lot of the time, people want to record their streams. The main reason for that is because, sure, you have the copy of your stream in YouTube or Facebook. It stays there. However, because it's being encoded and then sent over the internet, the quality of what you can get recording locally can most of the time be better. But again, it all depends on how much hard drive space you have. A lot of you I know are working on systems like maybe a MacBook Air or maybe even a MacBook Pro, but with very little hard drive space left. So maybe you don't want to record at all. You just want to have it. You just want to have it ready, basically. A lot of these other things we don't really need to worry about so much. Oh, this one's a good one. On studio mode, we can have transition to scene when double clicked. That allows you to, here, let me show you. Let's just hit apply. And let's just go to OK, and we're gonna go to studio mode. And I'm just gonna create another scene. I'm gonna talk about scenes and sources a bit more in a second. And just to, actually, I'll show you what that does later on, because I want to show you the sources first, and it's going to jump too many steps. But yeah, you might want to have that on. I'll show you what it does in like 10 steps or so. Multi-view, you might want to have multi-view options as long as you have more than one monitor. If your computer only has the one screen that you're using, if you're using laptop or a desktop computer but connected to only one monitor, then you might not want to have multi-view or extra views, basically. Then for stream, by default, it has some destinations here. As you can see, it has Africa TV, Angel Thumb, Caster.io, which is the delivery format I use most of the time. Yeah, it has Facebook, it has logo, live stream, etc., etc. You have a lot of different destinations by default. Most of the time, however, I go with custom. And the reason I go with custom is because, I don't know, it just gives me a bit more control. I'm able to select the server from here and also the stream key. I'm not sure if we covered that last class, but let me show you here what I mean with that. So I'm going to go to Caster.io, and I'm going to log in. But think of this as maybe not Caster, but let's say that this is Facebook or YouTube or any of those other platforms. So let's delete these ones, and we're going to create a new stream, and it's going to be a multi-stream, and I'm going to give it a random name, so random. Hosting region, we're going to say Toronto. Create multi-stream, right? So let's say that this is the live producer window in Facebook or YouTube. Normally in one section, it's going to change depending on what platform you're in, but you'll be able to find it. It gives you the option to either use your webcam, which defeats the purpose of using OBS. It just connects the camera directly to the destination. And same thing with the audio. You select the microphone source and you select the video source, just like you would on Zoom, for example. Or you can else get the RTMP, which is going to have a URL and stream key, which is auto-generated most of the time password. So then you just copy that URL, right? And then I'm going to put that in here. You put it on the server. As you can see, it was already there. And then for the streaming key, you're going to put the streaming key here, which I'm not going to show. And be careful with showing those because it's basically the password to your stream, right? If I were to show you this right now, any of you could, in theory, go to OBS, grab the same URL and streaming key, and then take over my stream, basically, which is one of the reasons why most of the time it's hidden like that. You can copy it without it being posted. And then when you go to OBS, you see that it's still protected by the little dots there, right? So I just hit apply. And now in theory, if I had anything going here and I hit start streaming, then I've effectively connected OBS to my stream, right? And then obviously from here, I would have to add different platforms like Facebook and YouTube. The reason why I use Caster is because OBS only allows you to have one destination, right? You can't send the OBS signal to both Facebook and YouTube at the same time. You need a multi-stream solution, just like Caster, for example. Or if you're using Wirecast or vMix or any of the other paid streaming encoders, then you're able to send to more than one destination at the same time. However, each destination that you have from your own computer is going to use more bandwidth. So one of the advantages of using a browser solution like this is that from your computer to the cloud, you're only sending one feed. And then it's the cloud that, or the program that you're using, in this case, again, Caster, that then sends to the multiple platforms. In theory, if I had paid for that tier, I could have, I don't know, like 10 different destinations here, and it's not going to be using the same bandwidth as if I were sending from Wirecast to 10 different destinations. So this is a great solution. I think it's like $15 a month that I paid for this, and you can only and you can cancel anytime as well. Another one that's very popular is Restream, I think it's called. Restream. Yeah, Restream Dot Io is another solution that's similar to that. They have a 7-day trial. A lot of different applications, different companies use them as well. And now they also have their own, like, you don't need OBS, basically. You can do all your layouts and things from there. You can even have guests and whatnot. So it's a very, very comprehensive solution that you should definitely look into as well. It's a bit more expensive, as you can see, or maybe, $19 for the standard one. But yeah, streaming to 30 plus social platforms, one custom extra destination, the $49 gives you 3, screen sharing, right? So the option that is $19 doesn't give you 1080p, for example. You're only streaming to 720 most likely, which is again why sometimes if you don't need to do multi-streaming, then you might be fine with just OBS and then just going to the destination of your liking. For those of you who are wondering how to stream to Instagram, again, Instagram on their terms of service it's not made to receive signal from a computer, right? The API is made so that you can send signal from your phone. So if you're using the camera on your phone, then it gets connected to Instagram, and then you're using the microphone from the phone, and you're using the camera from the phone, and that's it. Obviously, there's this thing called Yellowduck, and again, this is more of next Tuesday's class. But there's this solution called Yellowduck that, as you can see, works for both Windows and Mac. And what it does is it allows you to log in to your Instagram into it. and it generates a an RTMP URL and a streaming key like I showed you before. So in theory, you can just put those numbers or those values into your streaming software. In this case, we're talking about OBS, and then it's going to connect to Instagram. However, by default, your OBS or Wirecast or whatever, it's set up as 1920 by 1080, meaning that it's wider than it is taller, right? It's basically on landscape mode. However, Instagram, when you turn your phone, it doesn't actually turn like Facebook does, for example, right? It stays always on portrait mode. So if you stream directly from Wirecast, or OBS in this case, I keep forgetting that's the one we're talking about, you're only going to really see that. You're going to see the middle section. So you either change the canvas size, right? Which you can do, where is it? I believe that is on the actual settings. Let's see. Output, no, video. Yeah. So obviously right now there's an output that I'm using. So let's stop that. Is it the NDI output? Yeah. So let's cancel that. And then let's go here and go back to settings and video. Right. So I would have to change the 1920 by 1080 or the aspect ratio of 16:9 maybe to 9:16 or 1080 by 1920 or else resize the value or the source I have so that you don't care so much about what's on the sides because it's not going to go through Instagram. So if you're wanting to do a stream that goes to Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, it's better if you don't. Like you can either just go to, for now at least, you can either just go to Instagram directly from your phone, or else just do Facebook, Vimeo, YouTube, and any of the other programs that are okay with streaming directly from a computer instead of using the phone. Cool. So settings, where were we? Right. So that's for the streaming section. For output, you can either have it on advanced or simple. Advanced is, a bit better because, for example, in this case, the encoder, I can change it to my NVIDIA, which means that I'm actually using the graphic card that comes with this Windows computer to do the encoding instead of the processor, right? Maybe your processor is not that powerful. Having a graphic card definitely helps with this. And this allows you to do it that way. You can also change the bit rate, which is basically how many bits per second you're sending to the stream, right? If I set anything lower than 4,000, you're going to start getting some errors in YouTube. YouTube is going to say, hey, for 1920 by 1080, send me at least, I think it's 4 or maybe 4.5. So like 4,000 or 4,500 is what you should have that number at. Rate control, there's average, constant, variable, bit rate, right? So what this means, if I have it on constant, for example, it means that regardless of what's on the screen, 4,500 kilobits per second are being sent to the stream. If I have it on variable, for example, which is the VBR here, what it does is that if you have something on screen that doesn't require that much information, let's say maybe it's just a picture, right? So a picture is not moving, there's no audio in it or anything. So in theory, you could send less bits and just save bandwidth for that section. And as soon as something else kicks in, then have a bit more information. But YouTube doesn't like that either. Facebook doesn't mind so much. But when you start sending variable bit rates to YouTube, it can give you some heart attacks because in YouTube itself, which let's open it here. Let's go to YouTube and let's go live. So I'm going to select go live here. And this is the YouTube producer, as I was showing you before. And we're going to let it load for a second. Great. So now it's just waiting for my program, right? So as you can see, it has the stream URL, which is what I have to copy in the URL section, and the streaming key. 1080, it says Haiti because it's for a show that I was doing for Haiti. But RTMP variable, great. So if I start sending signal here, usually it's here on stream health that you're gonna see if there's any issues. If the signal goes below the 4,000, if it goes to like 1,200 or something like that, you start getting some error messages. It goes from green. See where it says no data? If I were sending signal right now, it would show green, which also means good. It has a good signal in it. But then it might turn yellow or amber, which means, you know, there might be some issues going on. And sometimes those issues are, again, just using a variable bitrate. Oops, sorry, I'm gonna use Leo later on. But yeah, it's using one of those. So again, if you don't want to complicate it much, I suggest just leaving this on simple. And then, you know, you can still select your encoder, but, you know, you don't have to tinker with it. You just select basically your streaming preferences, right? For audio bitrate, again, 320 would be the closest to wave, like uncompressed audio that you can get, but it's also going to use more bandwidth, right? So I would say either 192 or 160 or even down to 128 is going to give you an okay quality. Don't go any lower than that, because then you're going to start hearing some of those MP3 jitters, you know, like little weird noises on your audio as well. But if your internet is really bad, then for sure play with these values until you get something that makes sense for what you're doing. Same thing, again, you can stream, as you can see, start streaming here and start recording, right? So you can select different settings for the recording itself. You select the path of where to go, which again, if you don't have much space on your hard drive, this allows you to select a different destination, right? Maybe I have an external hard drive connected, so you can connect that there for sure. And if I go to the advanced one, it allows me to do more things, like, for example, send different sources to different audio tracks. So then when I'm editing later on, if I want to edit the stream, I'm able to change the volume of two different speakers, for example, right? If you just have audio track 1, then what's going to happen for the recording part, is that you are going to have both the host and the guest, for example, on the same track. So if there's both speaking at the same time and one of them is louder than the other, there's nothing you can do after that, right? It's already like that, and there's no way to fix it, or no easy way to fix it. But you can actually send it so that they go to different tracks. So you can then open it in Pro Tools or Logic or GarageBand, and you can apply different processing to each of those sources. Normally for streaming, like I said, 4,500. For recording, it depends. You have to keep playing with the bitrate until you get a value that looks good for you. Lower values are going to give you compression artifacts, which means that, for example, it might look pixelated at times. You might also be getting like the really, like, the darkest sections of the screen. The black is going to look kind of, if you've ever seen a pirated or a bad copy of a DVD, or if you've ever streamed a movie on websites that you shouldn't, you know what I mean with you know, the pixelation or the compression that you can get on the video. But for example, for some shows that I've done for the NAC, for streaming shows where they want things recorded, they've usually asked for 20,000 kilobits per second for the recording, and so far it's done well. Max quality, profile high. Again, this is all going to be different depending on what computer you have. If you don't have a graphic card or a powerful graphic card in your computer, then you might have to have way lower values than this. My Mac Mini, for example, can't really do this properly. It starts getting really confused, which is, again, why I ended up getting the Windows computer. But let's just leave it on simple for now. And maybe we'll just change this back to 4500. High quality, medium size, sure. Recording format, we'll put it on MP4 for now. Obviously, you know, the main issue, as you can see there, is that having it on MP4 means that if the program crashes, you know, maybe 2 minutes before the end of the show, you most likely have lost the whole show, right? Which is why sometimes it's better not to use MP4. Maybe you go with something like MKV, which saves progressively as it's going. So then, if anything were to go wrong, you'll still keep some of the previous sections as well. Then we're going to move on to the audio tab, where you can select your sample rate, right, from 48 kilohertz or 44.1. It's up to you what setting you have. Facebook used to be kind of weird receiving 48 kilohertz. It would usually make the signal go out of sync with the audio. It was fine on OBS, but then on Facebook you would start seeing the audio drifting from the video, which was a weird bug. But I've looked at the recommendations of Facebook Stream, and lately it said that it can take both 44 and 48. So just select whichever one you're using, whichever one your interface is set at. That's the important thing, right? In this case, for example, if I go to sound settings and then go to sound control panel, this is going to look different in Mac. I'll show you in Mac in a second. But if I go here to properties and then advanced, I'll see that I'm using 24-bit 48 kilohertz, right? That's the interface I'm using to connect my microphone in. So then just make sure that the sample rate is also the same. Now let me share my Mac screen to show you where you would find that. I have it on my dock just because I use it a lot. But if you don't, while you're on Finder, click on Go at the top, and then you can go to Utilities, or you can else just use Command-Shift-U, and that's going to bring you to this window here. And the application or utility that you're going to need a lot, and I would say please just grab this and move it to your dock so that it just lives there. But this is the application where you're able to see, or the utility, sorry, where you're able to see every single audio device that's connected to your computer, including in this case, you know, some of the screens I have, the monitors I have, they also have little speakers in them, right? So they're all going to be showing up here. The camera is also a microphone, right? So at a sample rate of the maximum it goes is 32 kilohertz or 32,000 hertz. So that one sucks. It's gonna have, like, the maximum it can go. Without getting too technical, Nyquist theorem states that you can only reproduce up to half of the sample rate properly. So if you have 48 kilohertz or 44.1 kilohertz, and we divide that by 2, is over 20 kilohertz, which is over what any of us can hear, right? Having a sample rate of 16 kilohertz means that the highest frequency this can reproduce is 8 kilohertz, which is a frequency that most of you should be able to hear. So it's going to lose a lot of the air of the high frequencies on it, which is why I never use the microphone from that. Then we have some NDI audio, black hole, which I'm not using, but I'm just going to change that to 48. My Mac Mini speakers. See, so here you can look at all of these and change the sample rate of them. I'm not using this one, so I don't care. But sometimes if I'm having audio issues, I get kind of neurotic and then change all the devices to 48 in case by default one of the programs is looking at the wrong device, then I'm able to change it. But anyway, the reason I wanted to show you this is because then I can go to my Universal Audio Thunderbolt device and make sure that 48 kilohertz is the sample rate I have, right? So that's the same thing you're going to do here, right? Oops, I'm going to change that to 48. Usually I have all these other ones disabled. This is basic, like if you have a microphone and you want that microphone to be live at all times, this is where you would be able to select it, right? You can select any of the different microphone sources I have, and then select that as your global audio device. But most likely when you have a countdown, or when you're playing a video, or when you're doing anything else, you don't want to have your microphone on. So that's why I have all those ones disabled. Meters, decay rate, peak meter type, we don't really care so much about those. Yeah, I just leave them as that. And advanced, you have the monitoring device. So this is so that you can hear what's happening in OBS. By default, you're not going to be able to hear them, right? You have to actually activate it so that you can hear each of the devices. Because right now, for example, if I selected my microphone to be live and I'm monitoring it through OBS, your voice is going to sound a few milliseconds later. And that can be confusing for some people. So normally, if I'm here on Windows, for example, I would be monitoring myself from Reaper or whatever DAW I have. And then I would leave the monitoring device as speakers here, but only make active the music videos, for example, or any pre-recorded material. I'm not monitoring myself through OBS again. For video, yeah, we just have the base canvas is 1920 by 1080, which again means the area that you have to work. That's usually the HD setting for most TVs and screens. The output, it allows you to change that to something else, for example. So my canvas can be 1920 by 1080, but then what I'm actually sending on the scaled output is 1280 by 720. Which is what you should have if you're just streaming to Facebook, for example, right? Facebook, unless you've been with them for a while, you have to have like a partner status of sort. Doesn't allow you to stream 1080. It receives 1080 fine. You can send 1080, but it's going to downscale it to 720 anyway. So if your internet is being slow, then just stream it at 720. It's fine. Most people that are going to be watching on their phones, you know, the difference between 1080 and 720 is going to be, it's going to be pretty minimal. Also, you have your frame rate, right? Platforms like YouTube, for example, allow you to have pretty, pretty versatile frame rates, but by default, just do 30 for now. It's fine for streaming. Hotkeys, we're not going to look at this, but as you can see, you can add different combinations of keys. For example, right now I'm just pressing different keys on my keyboard, like even backspace, for example, and you can save those so that every time you press backspace, you don't have to click here on start streaming, but it'll just go directly. 1 second, please. It's a lot of talking. Every time I finish one of these, my throat hurts a little bit, and it's because I should be using my diaphragm instead, but I don't. We're not going to look into any of these, I don't think. Stream delay, network, blind IP. Yeah, we don't need to look into these ones for now. So we'll just hit apply and we'll hit OK, and now we're here. Right? Some plugins, because again, remember that OBS works with plugins. It allows you, it can work without them, but there's some things that you're going to want to download some plugins for. The main one that I would recommend is the NDI output, because yes, OBS has a virtual camera of itself, but I find it crashes Zoom. And again, you want to have the option of sending it to another computer, perhaps, right? Maybe I want to send it to my Mac computer instead. So if you go here and you type OBS NDI plugin, for example, it'll take you here to the OBS project, which is the same website we were in before. And I'm going to click there. And most of the time when you're searching for a plugin, it takes you here. And then you click there, but that's not where you download it. And then you're going to keep, this has happened to me a few times, and maybe you already saw where it is, and that's great for you. But I would just go through all this and then go to the source. It's here. It's the go to download. You just need to go there. Every time you're wanting to download a plugin, I know it's a different color, but I just always missed it at first. And here you can see that this plugin adds simple audio video input and output over IP, right over your network, using Mutex NDI technology. So when you go to download, it takes you here, right? And just download the one that corresponds to your OS. In this case, we see options for Mac, we see options for AMD, Windows, and the source code, etc., etc. In this case, the one I downloaded was this one, a 4.9 Windows installer, right? Obviously, you need to close OBS when you download and install that. But then when you open it under Tools, before it didn't show this option, now it does. So I can select this, and I just click there, and then I can access the output of OBS on any computer on my network, including a virtual webcam through NDI and then Zoom on itself, right? But for now, we're not going to do that, because we're going to start looking at some of like how OBS works, basically. Now, that one by default, it's called Scene 1, but I was playing around with it a little bit before I started this. But yeah, on the left, you have all your different scenes, and scenes are collections of sources, okay? And sources can be anything, really. They can be, well, let's click here on plus, and we'll see they can be audio inputs, outputs, they can be browser sources, color sources, display capture, which, for example, if you have a couple of monitors like I do, when you click on display capture, for example, I just opened that one, you'll see that's desktop 1, which gives you this sort of cascade effect, because obviously you're sending itself back to itself, or my display 2, which is my second monitor, which if I move the mouse to the right, then you see it inside there. So I'll bring this back here. But yeah, that could be another source of what I'm using, for example. Sorry, my mouse is being kind of weird. Save. No, I wanted to delete it. Great. What else? It can be game capture, which I haven't used personally. So let's see what it does. It might be something to do with the NDI capture for full screen application. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I haven't used that one. Usually when I've wanted to stream my Call of Duty adventures, I just capture the screen with a display capture and then go that way. You can do images, you can do image slideshow, which allows you to import a collection of pictures and then have them go around. Normally, whenever I'm doing that, I usually just use Davinci Resolve, which again, I have the studio version, which I paid for. It wasn't that expensive. I think it was a bit less than $500, but it's an incredibly powerful program. So get it if you like it. But in this case, for example, let's just create a new project, and we're gonna call it delete. And the only reason I'm showing you this is because let's just go Shift 9. Make sure that we're on 30 frames per second. My canvas is 1920 by 1080. And yeah, I'll just speak just very briefly about this, mainly because anytime I need any video asset, this is the program I use. It has a few tabs here at the bottom. It's way easier than Movie Maker, I find. But yeah, most of the time you're going to be on the Edit tab, which is this one here. You also have a Sound tab, where you can change all the different, fader levels of each of the sources that you have. And then you have your deliver. You also have color correction and fusion, which is kind of like After Effects and whatnot. But, you don't, at least unless you're doing really complicated stuff, you're not really ever going to go there. At least I haven't had to do it more than a couple of times. But yeah, here, once I have my video, I can select the YouTube preset and then just give it a name, and it exports it 30 frames per second, 1920 by 1080, etc., etc. But for example, let's just say that I want to make not an image, what was that called again? Image slideshow, but something else, right? Maybe I want to do a counter, right? So normally what I would do in that case is, let's grab this picture here. This can be anything. This can be the poster to the event, for example, right? In this case, I have this picture that I got from a website called TubeBuddy, I think it's called. They have a lot of different assets that you can get. It's like $17 a month. But yeah, let's say that I want to have this, right? And this right now is a picture, right? It's a PNG. So I can make it be a video of 10 minutes or an hour if I want. But obviously it's not going to make any difference. So at that point, you might have been okay just leaving it as a PNG, right? You can, and importing it into OBS, and it would have had the same result. However, the reason why I brought it here is because maybe I want to do a 5-minute countdown, right? And the reason why I've brought it there is because then I'm going to grab a text, right? And I'm going to grab this text as a text plus. I'm going to extend it. If I zoom in, then you can see the cursor changes from an arrow to a trimmer, right? And then I can just expand it so that it's exactly the same length as the PNG, which I know, again, it's 5 minutes. And then here I'm going to change this to, I'm right clicking on it. I'm changing it to time code. And then once I'm in time code, you can see as I move the cursor, it's in the middle of the screen, which is not what I wanted to. So this is the inspector window. I'm going to go to settings, and I'm going to change the position on the Y quadrant so that I can put it down there, for example, right? And then let's zoom in a little bit maybe so that it's that size, right? Also, the first section here is hours, right? Then you have minutes, seconds, and frames. That's how time code works. And as you can see, it goes up to 29, and then it goes back to 0, basically, right? So those are the frames that you have on the side. So I'm going to crop it. I'm going to crop it because I'm not using hours, right? So I'm going to crop left. And as you can see, it starts deleting that. So I'm going to maybe make it all the way there. And I also don't want to see frames. That's a bit much. So I'm going to crop the right till I hide that 07 that you can see now. Right, so that's just now minutes and seconds, right? But now it's counting upwards, right? And I want it to be a countdown. So the reason why I use text plus instead of just regular text is because, again, it allows me to right click here and select time code, as I did. And then I can create a new compound clip, which I'll just call countdown or CD. So now it's not a text anymore, it's a clip, like a video clip, basically. And then I can right click on it and change the clip speed and reverse it. So now, as you can see, it's a countdown. Great. So this could have been a combination of different pictures. Like maybe I actually, yeah, let's say that I want to have that, and then halfway through I want to have this poster from the really cool Climate Live event I did. Obviously, we would have had to put the actually, yeah. See, before I did the compound click, I should have made it so that the text had a drop shadow. Now it's a compound click, so you can't change that. But what I can do, I'll just move it off here to the side. That's fine. Yeah, so then that way, you know, I don't have to get too crazy with it. I can also, let's just put it back in the middle. I could also just cut there and cut there, and then change only that one section. Sorry, I didn't want to move it down. I wanted to move it to the side. right? So then it's gonna go like this, and then when it gets there, the counter moves to the side. I find that to be more confusing. I would have just left it on the side, and then back to the middle, right? So then I just go now to deliver, and I'm gonna say the title is gonna be countdown event. I recommend having folders for all your projects. So in this one, we'll put it on our D folder, and we'll create a new one called OBS class. And yeah, we're just going to drop the video there. I'm also going to select my, yeah, I'm going to select MP4, H.264 is good, and NVIDIA. Whoops. And something you should also make sure is that you select the area that you want to export. Right now it was going to stop it before 0, and I don't want that. I want the counter to go all the way to 0. So now it's just rendering. It's doing 94, 97 frames per second, which means that it's going to be done in a third of the time, right? Because there's 30 frames per second, and right now it's doing almost 100 per second. So, you know, it's going to be done in 1 minute and 17 seconds. So while that's happening, we'll go back here. The reason why I always do some sort of a welcome screen or a countdown or any sort of scene that doesn't have my face on it first is so that I can, you know, connect the stream, right? The URL and the stream key. I can do all that stuff before I'm on screen, so that when I send it, I can go on my phone or a different device to my Facebook page or my YouTube page and see the counter, and that gives me the peace of mind to know that as soon as I change it to the screen where you can see my face, or the scene where you can see my face, then I know I'm live. I just start with, hey, how is everyone doing, etc., etc. I don't need to be worried about the whole, like, am I live? Are you guys able to see me? And all that stuff that gets a bit weird and old a little bit after you see that on almost every stream. So this is almost done. It's 95%, 96%. Depending on your computer and your graphic card as well, this could take a lot longer. Failed. Fusion, composition, the current frame clip cannot be processed successfully. Well, that sucks. It could be because I have, let's just try again. It could be because I have OBS open and it's also using the card. But in case it doesn't work, let's just pretend that I already have the video. And we're gonna call this countdown. Sorry, just to backtrack here. I've gone plus, right, to add a source to scene 1. And in this case, I'm selecting image in case the video fails again. But I've selected image, and I'm gonna call it countdown. And I'm gonna hit OK. And then it's gonna ask me, where do I find this image that you wanna add to the stream? Right, so I'm gonna select it from there, and I'm gonna go to the OBS class. Oh, no, sorry, I didn't have it there. That's where the video is gonna go. This is where the picture was. And I'm just gonna hit OK, and that's it. So now I have my, imagine this is the video. Again, we're gonna see if it works the second time. But this is my welcome screen. So I'm gonna change this scene, and I'm gonna rename it to just say starting soon, let's say. And that's it. So now if I connect to Facebook or, you know, YouTube or whatever platform I'm using, I know for a fact that they can't see me and they can't hear me. They can just see the screen, which again is sort of what you want to start the stream with. So then let's create another scene, and maybe we call that scene, yeah, it's not working for some reason. I think it's because OBS is open. It usually most of the time works. And I'm gonna call it main. And on that second, as you can see, as soon as I changed it, as soon as I created it, it transitioned to it, right? Which again, if the show was live now, then that's not what you want. If right now the counter is going and you're doing it last second and you need to prepare it, you need to go back to studio mode, and then I can click on main, and this hasn't changed. until I press transition there, you won't be going to the next scene. So this is a safe way of doing this. But now on main, I'm going to add a image capture, which is what they call, where are you? Image capture, video capture, sorry. And I'm going to call this, let's say, main camera. And again, every time you open a source or you create, anytime you add a new source, it's going to ask you, where do you want that source to come from, right? If it's a picture or a video, it's going to open a browser option where you can find it on your computer. In this case, I selected a virtual, sorry, not a virtual, but a video input device or capture device. So I'm going to select by my Blackmagic design, which is the capture card I'm using. Now you can see me here on my other camera. That is the one that I have there. The focus is a bit weird because I have a different lens on it, but let's not worry about that for now. Resolution, usually I want to go to custom, select 1920 by 1080, just in case it's doing some weird scaling. 1920 by 1080, yes. Frames per second, match output at 2997, that's all good. And I click OK, and that's it. So now I'm almost ready to go live, right? If I press transition, for example, then I'm live. I'm going to Facebook or YouTube or whatever platform, but people can't hear me yet, right? And the reason why is because when you open a source, that's a video source, or like I said before, a video capture device, you also need to add an audio input device or an audio input capture. So in this case, you could call this one microphone, for example. And it's not going to work here because I don't have my microphone connected to that. I'm using the Mac computer to talk to you. But when I click here, you'll be able to find all the different sources I have. So in this case, for example, I could have selected the microphone from that. Actually, that might work. Let me see. If I select microphone and then go live, and then on check. No, I would have normally if I were, for example, on my Mac computer, I would select my universal audio device as my audio source. Or in this case, for example, what I would have done instead of microphone, normally I would have had my microphone connected not to my Blackmagic, but to my interface, which is the Focusrite. Oh, there you go. And it's only reading noise because it's receiving the signal from the Mac computer. But then this is where you'll be able to add that. So now you have your welcome screen, and then you have your main screen where you can see the image and you can also hear it as well. Any questions so far? No. Great. So obviously this allows you to have your show. If you only have one camera, then that's great. That's sort of what you get. I have my phone here as well, so let's see if I can also use it. So I'm gonna open NDI-HX, which again is the you would not use loopback input. Yes, sorry. If I were on my Mac computer, then I would be using loopback if I'm going through Pro Tools, or just my universal audio if I'm going through if I'm not using my DAW and I just want to connect my microphone direct, then that would be your source basically. So right now I've opened my phone and there, right? You might not see that well, but I have my phone on me and I have the NDI-HX open. So now I'm going to create another scene. So not the main, but let's create another scene and call it, for example, phone. As you can see, by default, it opens with nothing on it. So I'm going to add, again, an audio input capture. You need to add it for every new scene that you create, right? So I'm not going to add a new one because I already opened the microphone one. So I'm going to select that so that the stream can also hear me. By the way, the image that you're seeing there, it's going to be weird and kind of jittery and all that stuff, but that's because I'm using two devices through NDI, and this is a screen share. This is not what would be going through the stream. The stream would be pretty smooth, actually. So I'm going to add that microphone, and then I'm going to add an Ndi source. And that Ndi source we're going to call phone. And the name of it is going to be iPhone, right? Because I have the app open, you can see that it shows as an option, right? And then I'm going to click here and allow hardware acceleration. Yeah, all that stuff is good. Now I'm going to hit OK. And there it is. But now it's too big, so I'm going to go to transform, fit to screen, or Control F. By default on Mac, it doesn't have the same shortcut. It's not Command F either, but you can make that be. But yeah, as you can see now, I have two scenes. One of them has my camera, the Blackmagic, the Sony connected to the Blackmagic, and the other one has my phone. So let me get out of studio mode, right? So now I can just, with the up and down arrows, change between all my different scenes. By the way, some of the blur on that one is because it's a very cheap, newer prime lens that looks like it hasn't been cleaned in a while, and I had it without a caps, which is why the phone one looks a lot better as well. Cool, so let me just put this down and close that as well. Now we know how to add video sources. Now we know how to add audio sources as well. I believe you can make a scene in OBS just for audio, and then the NES that's seen in OBS and only come on scenes to make audio. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Because when you add sources to any scene, that can also be a scene, right? A scene can be a source on its own. So for example, what Randy's saying there is that we could create a scene called, for example, audio only, right? And in that scene, create our audio input capture, right? And select microphone. And then on any device, let's say on this one, or even on starting soon. Now we want to talk while the countdown is happening. I just add the scene that contains the audio only, and then the audio is live there as well. So yeah, it is a bit of an OBS inception. Or another option that you can do that I do most of the time is that if I know I'm going to be using something similar where I want to keep the audio and maybe some other assets of what I have, I just right click on it and I duplicate the scene, right? And then I call it something else, maybe main 2. And then on main 2, I add something else, maybe a ticker or lower thirds or whatever else I want to add to it. And it already has the audio input, right? Maybe this had a lot of different sources, not just the camera and the microphone. So duplicating it really allows you to just save some time, you know? Other things I just call, maybe halfway through my show, I want to play a video of my friend, you know, playing music. So I'm going to come here, and videos can be added through media sources. I'll call it music. And do I have anything? I have some of the climate live videos here. Sure, maybe we'll select this one, Cherry Pit. Yeah, she was great. So now that I have this MP4 loaded here, you have different options. You can loop it, right? Which is what you should be doing if you have a very short video that you just want to have looping infinitely until you're ready to go live. In this case, it's a video that I don't want it to loop, because once it ends, I just want, you know, I just want the video to stop. You also have the option to restart playback when source becomes active. It's good that this is set up by default, because if it isn't, what it means is that if you are doing a sound check and you're just watching the video for a few seconds before you go live, you watch, let's say, 15 seconds of it, then you go to your main camera. Then by the time you play the video, it's going to start playing at 15 seconds. So you're going to miss some of the beginning. So you always want to make sure that you're restarting the playback when source becomes active, right? Like, let me show you. If I don't have that selected, for example, right, you see her there playing. let's say that we are sort of around there. Then I'm gonna go to my main camera, and then when I click it to video, as you can see, it's still going, right? It starts playing whenever I left it off. And that's not what I want. So let's go to properties and make it so that it restarts playback. And now I'm gonna switch, and then I switch back, and it's always gonna start again from the top. Because normally you're just gonna play the video once, right? So this way I could have, you know, I know of a lot of people have done similar things to this, where they're doing a show, kind of like MTV, where they're talking and then they're going to present a video and then they go back to talking and whatnot. You have your main shot and then a video, and then you could duplicate this main shot so that you don't have to be jumping up and down from everything. You just keep duplicating it, and you have, let's say, 20 different scenes where the first one is your counter, the second one is your main, here I'm talking scene, the third one is video one, the fourth one is your main camera again, duplicated, and then video two, main camera, video three, main camera, etc., etc. Right? So that way, once the show starts, you just worry about pressing the down arrow, right? And every time I press the down arrow, it's going to go to something else. The reason why the phone now looks like it's frozen, like it is there, is because I closed the, I've put my phone on, I've locked it, you know, and when you lock any Ndi source, it just stays frozen basically. Sweet. So that's for most of the sources that you're gonna really care about. If you're not really good with things like Photoshop or Inkspace, which is free, or yeah, or you know, Blackmagic, sorry, not Blackmagic, Davinci Resolve, or you know, different editing programs. Something that you can use here, and that I've used a few times actually as well, is the color source. So let me open that, and I'm gonna call it, let's say, background. Right. So by default, you can see that it occupies the whole screen. Right. It also hit me. The width here is 1920 by 1080. I can change the color. Let's say that I want something more like that. All right, so now it's going to be that sort of sky blue or whatever color name that is. The name of it is 4783D1. And I just hit OK, and then that's it. Now I have that as a background. However, if you've used OBS, sorry, if you use Photoshop or any other editing program, this works in the same way. Sources are stacked on top of each other, meaning that whatever is at the top is whatever is closest to the audience. So right now, my microphone, audio sources don't really get covered by video sources. My microphone could be here at the very bottom and you're still going to be able to hear me. But the camera is a video source that has a background that is occupying the whole screen over it. So that's going to make it so that you can't see me. But you can move things with these arrows here, or you can just drag and drop. So in this case, I'm going to drag and drop the main camera all the way to the top. Here's Windows just being Windows. So yeah, let's move it there. And now you can see me there at the top. But this defeats the purpose of the background because I'm occupying the whole screen. So I can resize this. And as you can see in the back, you're going to have the background, right? I'm able to change the size just by grabbing any of the nodes, like any of them. It's just going to resize it exactly, keeping the aspect ratio. Or I think the shortcut in Mac is Control, but if you are on Windows, then you just press Alt, and then whatever node you grab is actually going to crop it instead of resize it, right? So maybe I could do something like this because I'm going to bring a guest later on, and that's too much overhead. So I can put that here, and then maybe write my name at the bottom or something like that. Maybe I want it to be bigger here. Oops, wrong key. Right, something that could happen is that, see how I have the border around my face right now. I'm clicking things and maybe by mistake I clicked here and then I moved it. Undo doesn't work, right? So if this was a big image, you're gonna have sometimes issues resizing it or putting it back to where you wanted it. So something good to know is that you have these little eyes here. The eyes are just to basically hide or show things, right? Sometimes I use this during the show instead of changing scenes. I just hide myself like this, let's say, or bring a picture of something, you know. But right now, see how the border, the nodes are around the background. If I wanted to change my picture, I might get lucky and move that, but as you can see, I didn't. So you have to click on it first, make sure it's highlighted, and then move it. But there's also that little lock next to the eye. What that does, as you can imagine, is that it locks the image in place. So now even if I click where the background is, I'm never going to move it. It's always going to be in the same place, which is what I recommend doing if you're going to be doing some editing and you don't want any mistakes to happen, right? So I could put myself there, for example. Then let's say I want to add my name, right? So I'm going to go to text in this case, and let's call this one name tag. Select font. We're going to go with impact because it's the only one I know. Even though lately I've been finding it a bit fat, like it's a bit too thick. But whatever, we'll just use it for now. So we'll go Guillermo. And then again, see how I have now two sources and the lines are overlapping. And if you're not careful, you could get some things, you know, misarranged. So for now, I'm just going to lock my main camera, right? So now the only thing I can click and move is really my name. So I'm going to move my name there. Maybe I'm going to resize it. I'm going to put it here at the bottom. So this is just like a very basic layout. Obviously, you can do a lot of things that are more complicated. Like one of them, for example, do I want to show you these? Am I going to have time? Yeah, I think so. Let's say that that here on the right, I want to add maybe a chat, right? Maybe I'm doing this stream to YouTube and I want to add, you know, the actual live chat to here. So let's go back to YouTube. Not to YouTube Studio, just to normal YouTube. And I'm gonna go here to live, right? Just to watch anything that's happening live. Let's just select, who do we want to select? Maybe the Hindu editorial analysis. Oh no, but that hasn't started yet, it seems. What is live? This one's live. Rumble Day. I don't know what that is. Oh yeah, right. People playing video games. Great. So this has a live chat, does it? Oh, maybe it doesn't. Yeah, they don't have their live chat open. Great. Who has their live chat open? Live. This one's live now. Oh, someone playing Call of Duty. Great. So if this is your channel, then when you go here to the top, to these three dots, you can pop out the chat, right? And when you do so, then you have here a URL, right? So I'm just going to copy that URL, and I'm going to go back to OBS. And on this scene, I'm going to add another source. In this case, it's going to be a browser source, right? And I'm going to call this one chat, for example. By default, it adds the obsproject.com browser source, right? Which is as you've just added a browser source. Browser sources let you display a web page, etc., etc. So I'm going to replace that by the URL I just copied. 800 by 600, as you can see, it's a pretty almost square, close to square image, and the chat it's more, you know, like a rectangle. So I'm going to change this, let's say maybe to 540 by 890. And I'm going to hit OK. And that's it. as you can see, because it's a browser source, it just keeps getting updated. So as people keep typing, and again, I'm not responsible for any of these comments because they're not from my page. But this is how you could have, you know, a live chat that you can see, and then your audience can see. Your audience might already be on YouTube, so it becomes a bit redundant. But if I'm streaming this to a different source, then this allows me to have both of those going at the same time, right? Maybe I'm streaming this to Facebook as well, and on Facebook I have the comment section disabled because, or maybe let's say you're using Twitch, or you're only streaming to, yeah, whatever, Vimeo. Then you could have the chat function so that only those that are, you know, giving donations or whatever are able to actually see the comment section. And this is handy for whenever you're doing some sort of a contest or something like that. Just bear in mind that when you're streaming, the output of what you can see in OBS is just a few milliseconds delayed, while the feed of what everyone else can see, it can be anywhere from like 15 seconds to maybe up to a minute or more, right? So if you say, you know, what do people think about this and this, it might be a little bit until people get to see that question or hear you say, excuse me, hear you say that question, and you're gonna have to just wait, right? So ask the question and then entertain people with something else until you start seeing those comments appear on the screen, and then you'll be able to respond and interact like that. A way to sort of fix that, if you are on YouTube, for example, would be to change the latency settings. So when you start your stream, you'll see that it gives you the option to select normal latency, low latency, or ultra low latency. The only issue with selecting low or ultra low latency is that then the quality of the image is going to be affected a little bit, right? If you leave normal latency, you're letting the computer sort of buffer enough data so that when people are watching it, they're seeing a clearer, you know, like more HD signal than what you have. If you select ultra low latency, though, of course, then the comment section is going to be not immediate. It's still going to be a few seconds off, but it's not going to be 15 seconds off or 30 seconds off or any other value, basically. Yeah, so that's for that section. And as you can see, that can be videos or any other source. Like, for example, let's create another scene. We will add the input capture source of my microphone. Again, I could have just duplicated the main shot, and then I wouldn't have to redo all this. But, you know, just because we are doing a class on how to do things, then it might make more sense for me to just repeat the same motion over and over. That background, again, that first one I selected was just a color source, right? But it can be anything. It can even be a video, for example. Let's select media source. And then this one would be VG video. And we're going to loop it in this case, right? Because I do want the background to just keep going. And do I have that background here? I thought I had downloaded it, but maybe not. There's a lot of different videos from shows I've done. Zoom chat, narrow streets. Let's just pick. Oh yeah, right. That's a really cool thing that the band The Deaths Out did. But let's select. Yeah, this show is still live, so we'll go with this. This is Braden Lamb for his performance for the Climate Live, you know, for the show. So I'm gonna make him. Obviously, we don't want the audio for that, right? So we're just gonna mute it, and then we are going to change the order so that my camera is on top, and we're going to make it so that I'm just using his background, right? Maybe this is how I wanted to do it, you know? Obviously, you know, you can make it look, I'm making it look bigger so that then it doesn't look so much as a person in the background, but this could be bubbles, or, you know, it could be just like fire, or, you know, any video that you can get access to. You can shoot it yourself. Maybe it's just your cat walking side to side, and then that's your background for it. And other things you can do to video is apply filters, for example. So let me open Inkspace. No, sorry, Inkscape. Inkspace is something else. It's some program that does something else. This is free. It's not Photoshop. It's also open source, just like OBS. But I can do something like, for example, I'm going to change the size of the paper, basically, so that it is also 1920 by 1080. Not millimeters, but pixels, right? Oh, sorry, I have to do it again. 1920 by 1080. Yeah, and that's it. Now you can see the image is fully there, right? Then I'm gonna grab something like a square, and I'm gonna cover the whole square. Oh, and I already had the notes like that, so that's why it's showing that way. But anyway, by default, when you open it, it's gonna show like a full rectangle like this, right? And I've covered the whole screen. But when you grab the notes at the top, as you can see, I'm able to curve the corners a little bit. This can be any program. Again, you could be doing this in Photoshop instead, or what's the other one from Adobe? InDesign, I think it's called. Anyway, or you know, Corel Draw. So I'm going to change this, and I'm going to make that happen there, and then I'm going to export it as a PNG. Remember that PNGs allow you to have a transparent background. Basically, that's one of the main reasons why you want to select it, right? And we're going to export it as a rectangle. So we're going to put it here. Save, and then export. And then we're going to come here, and let me just first add it as a source, just because I want to make sure that I export it the right way. So we're going to go to, this is why it's important to keep your things organized. So D, YouTube assets, rectangle. Great. Okay, so yeah, it is a PNG. So again, it is transparent whenever there's no image. That's not what I wanted to do, because what I wanted to do in this case is just make it so it doesn't look as rectangular, right? Right now, you see the background is that, again, that could have been anything else, like fire or water moving, or anything, any sort of video that you end up making or downloading. There's a lot of websites where you can, for a monthly fee, get a subscription that allows you to download any video source that's royalty free, and you can use it for your shows. But again, what I want to do now is just sort of curve the edges a little bit, right? So it doesn't look as rectangular. So what I'm going to do is select that source, right? My main camera. And then I'm going to right click on it and go to filters, right? And here you can see there's audio video filters, and there's also effect filters. Right, so I'm going to add an effect filter, and in this case, that's going to be a image mask blend, right? And I'm going to select the alpha mask, because that's the alpha channel that I'm going to get. And the path is going to be the same one I had, so curved. And there you go. So I've applied a mask that it basically makes it so that anything that was transparent is now being blocked. So when I just close this, now you see that my video source, let me get rid of those two, it just looks better. You know, it's not as like paint, basically. Like when you have everything rectangular, it looks a bit too like yeah, like Windows 95 kind of thing, you know? So this looks way better. For example, if I were to replace the background, let's just hide it for now. Yeah, even with black there, it looks fine. But obviously, you know, let's just maybe add the color source that we had before, which is this sort of sky blue one. Again, I want to put it at the bottom. Then you have, you know, something that looks a bit nicer. And now does it change when I no, right, it keeps the actual rate of the image. So I would have had to crop it first and then apply the mask. In a similar way, you could use, for example, a green screen, right? I don't have one with me at the moment. I've been considering buying one, but most of my lenses have like super narrow depth of field, so I don't really care about what's in the background so much. And this camera has a bit more than I wanted to, but the one I actually use for the streams doesn't. But let's just create a new scene that we'll call Leo, because that's the one I found. And we're gonna add, in this case, it's an image, but let's just pretend that this is your camera with a green screen, right? Obviously, in Zoom, it allows you to do this by default to you know, some fault sometimes. But normally, if you have a green screen, it would sort of look something like that, right? Obviously, lighting the green screen is a whole art on itself. You have to make sure that the color is uniform, right? If you have any sections that are, you know, brighter than others, or there's some even like some faults on the fabric or something, that's going to show on the actual on the image replacement you're doing, right? So just make sure that you have it properly lit. There's a lot of tutorials online on how to do that. So I won't spend time going over that because I'm not an expert at it. But in this case, let's just show you how we get rid of it. First, let's actually select the background. So what background should we select? Let's just say any picture I have here. Let's go to another image. Background. I don't want to use the same one, the same sky blue one. So we'll just select a picture. Yeah, maybe the live streaming starting soon, right? Again, but this can be anything. This could have been, and we're gonna put Leo at the top. Maybe this could have been, you know, a video of the actual Oscars. You know, like we could have replaced the background with the actual background that was being used for it, or you know, a concert crowd like there used to be before the pandemic or anything like that. And then this is your video source. All you have to do is right click, go to filters, right? That's where we're going to be changing most of these settings. And then under effect filter, you'll add a chroma key. That's what the replacement is called, basically. And by default, it's on green, right? But it can be blue, magenta, or custom. And that's it. There he is, right on top of the other section. Obviously, there's different values that you can change depending on what your screen looks like. You know, as you can see, if I change the similarity, then you're going to start seeing some green, you know, borders around. If I go too tight, then he's going to disappear. So you can sort of start tweaking this until most of the time it's the hair that's going to be the complicated part. You can also change the smoothness, right? The color spill, reduction, opacity, etc., etc. You just play around with these values until you get like the best. Let's put the smoothness. Let's see, when I have the smoothness all the way to 1, you still can see some of the green border, right? So I'll just increase that right until there's no green, or as little green as I can get, but also the image is not transparent, as you can see there, right? And then you can also change contrast and whatnot. This is handy for when you're trying to match. Maybe, you know, I'm trying to put him on an outdoors, you know, shot in the middle of the desert, in the beach or something, right? So then, or maybe it's more of a dark scene or whatever. Then this is where you can start playing with with the different controls, and it's only going to change whatever's left, basically, you know, after the chroma key correction has been done. See, so you only have that. So that could have been you with a green screen, for example. And it really allows you to get a bit more creative. This could be the background, like for example, in those shots that we were seeing, I think I closed it, but those guys that were playing Call of Duty, that's most likely something like what they did. If I show you my main scene, for example, I don't have a green screen again, but you can still apply it. Obviously, right now the background is too similar. There's like my forehead here is very similar to the color of the ground. So if I were to apply a filter like the one I was using for Leo, this chroma key, then I go to custom and then select color and then pick screen color. I'm able to, you know, move through the screen and then select the color I want. So let's just disappear that blanket I have there in the background. So I'll select that and I'll go okay, and it made everything disappear. Yeah, see, and then as I start changing the similarity, then you see that disappear first, and then parts of my face start disappearing, and then other things disappear more, right? And then anything I put behind me, you'll be able to see. So for example, I can select the countdown maybe, and then put the countdown at the bottom. And you know, now you have a bit of a mix of me and the background as well, because maybe that's what you like. But then my hair, because it's not the same color as what I've selected, is perfectly covered. So is this, which is kind of like blue and white. But my hands, most of my face, except my beard and my eyebrows, and some of the chairs and the things that are pretty dark are not. But my hands right now, for example, that's pretty transparent. And only when you can see some of the shine is that they start actually being on screen, right? But whenever they're just red like that, that's just because it's being masked. You're actually seeing the background. Same thing with the live stream, right? Like if I do this, then you'll be able to start reading the lyrics, or not the lyrics, but the text on the screen and whatnot. It's hard, yeah. And this again, this can be a video, right? This instead of being a background of a picture, this could be a video of something else. Like let me bring our friend Braden again for these media source, yes, and we'll go with BG video, and we'll select it, and we'll make him be. Whoops! See, I should have logged that. We'll make him be the whole screen. And we'll put him at the bottom, and there's both of us, right? Obviously, again, using the green screen would have really made it so that I wouldn't have to be fighting this so much. So let's just go back to filters and hide that chroma key so that I'm back to sort of normal. What else? Oh yeah, other things that you can do with text, for example. Let's just say, for example, right now I want to have a text that is not the name, but maybe I want to add something like donate to etc. And I write donate to my Patreon, please. And I don't have a Patreon, and I make that be impact as well. And I just hit OK. And what else do I want from here? I think that's all for Ed, right? And I'm gonna lock my image because I'm tired of clicking it all the time and moving it. And I'm going to now grab this, and I can either make it smaller, right, and then make it fit on the screen, or maybe let's say that the pandemic is still affecting all of us, right? So I've written something that obviously, if I were to make it small enough so that it could fit all of it on the screen, it might not be big enough for people to read. right? Like maybe people can read it on computers and stuff, but people that are on phones most likely are not going to be able to read it. So let's just leave it big. And then what I'm going to do is, again, right click filters. This is where you're going to find most of the things. I'm going to go plus, and I'm going to go to scroll. So I'm adding a scroll filter that, as you can see, once I start changing the horizontal speed, you can see it moving there, right? And they can be very fast, but obviously that's just going to be a bit too fast, perhaps. You can find the right speed here where you want it, and that's it, right? So obviously now I need a space between us dot and the donate, but then I can have that in the background. Obviously, those red lines and all the blue lines that you see when I'm moving things, those are just guides, and you're the only one that can see that. Those are not going to the actual stream. But then this is what people will be able to see. And then on top of that, now, as you know, you can add any sort of video or any sort of audio and stack it on top of everything, basically. So that website that I was talking to you about, TubeBuddy, I think it's called, that one has a bunch of assets. You can do them yourself as well. Like, for example, if I go to Photoshop, for example, let's open Photoshop, and we're going to create just like a random mask that we won't really use as a mask, but let's just go to create new. We're going to select 1920 by 1080 because, again, that's the format we're working with. Oh, actually, let's go again because I want to select 1920 by 1080, but I want the background to be transparent, not white. Create, right? So when you see these dots in Photoshop, I'm not an expert at Photoshop at all, but when I do that, I know that the background is transparent. Then I'm gonna just select everything with black, and then I'm just gonna erase some sections, and it's gonna say that I can't because of something, but I'm gonna rasterize that. So now I can just start, like maybe I wanna do something like this, and this can be any shape. Like you could be cutting anything here, and maybe this is when I want to add some text here at the bottom. If you have a tablet or something like that, this might be a lot easier, obviously. I think you can change the width. I don't know how to change the width of the, oh yeah, there you go. No. Oh yeah, right. So that's for the clone stamp. Yeah, see, this is what was happening to me earlier. Anyway, I'll just keep doing this. Imagine that this is going a lot faster. And then I want to put something here at the top as well. So I'm going to delete that too. Great. And then I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to export it. I'm going to export it as a PNG, and I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to call it something else. Ndi, in YouTube assets, save, back to not here, but this. And I'm going to add it in the same scene maybe. So I'm going to go image, something else, and we're going to find it, and it should be in the same place, which is where we saved it, which is in YouTube assets. And where is it? Did I save it? Oh, maybe I didn't. Let's try again. So export, let's just go export as instead. PNG, transparency, 1920. Yeah, everything looks good. Try again. On YouTube assets, save. Okay, so that should be it, right? I'm not crazy. Oh yeah, and there's something else too, which is something happened. I don't know. And then there you go, right? So this obviously I'm gonna put it not at the very back because I want it to be on I want the image to be behind it, right? But I'm gonna unlock the image and then maybe change it so that I'm a bit smaller and I fit right on this like crazy thing. And maybe I want the text, in this case, I want it a bit smaller. so that you can actually read some of what's happening. And I can mask it behind it like that. So you'll still be able to read it, but obviously I should have made this space a bit bigger so that you can actually read what's going on there. But this could be any shape you want, and be primed basically for that. And yeah, it is perfect. And I could have created another one and then have my guest on the side, and etc. etc. Let me go back to the main shot, which I don't have anymore. Right, so let's just create a new scene. And in this case, again, I'm just gonna go video capture, camera. I'm not gonna bother about the audio right now because you're not hearing me that way anyway. It has the mask already, you can hide it too. And from that website I was telling you about, just because again, I'm not very good with, as you can see, with Photoshop or Inkspace or Ink, whatever it was called. You can download some assets that are already made for you, right? So in this case, for example, the ones that I've just got are like that live stream, welcome page. It also has like these doodle packs, for example, right? Maybe I want to have an arrow like that. And I'm going to add it, and they're all PNGs, right? So I could be adding these somewhere through my show, for example. I could put it on a different scene and animate it, or maybe let's just add something else here, maybe a media source. You should be naming things as you are, but again, I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to do this, and we'll select call lower, which is a lower third that asks you to call, for example. So we'll just say that, and then you get that, right? When it gets to the end, it should disappear. Yeah, but you could just make it so that it keeps looping, for example, or just have it like that, and then create a shortcut so that it shows whenever you press that key, or use something like a Stream Deck and then program it so that it appears in that scene as well. And that's it. Next class, what I'm gonna do is talk a little bit about the different platforms we have, different pros and cons that we have on each of those. And I'll also talk a little bit more about OBS. There's some sections that I want to talk to you about still, like the audio mixer and some of the settings that you can do with it, plugins that you can add on this part as well. Also the scene transitions, you can add different things there too. And then the platforms, and then just like a general overview of everything that we've covered. That will be on the next class. So I'm going to open it for questions if anyone has any. And if not, Huma, if you want to wrap it up. You can unmute yourself if you have a question.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I show you my favorite Zoom OBS trick? Sure. Let's see it.
Hi, enjoying the streams. Yeah, I started fooling around with OBS when the pandemic hit, and our band would have weekly Zoom meetings because we couldn't meet, 15-piece band. So as I was starting to learn OBS, I was doing things like this.
Oh, yeah. That looks great. That's awesome.
So yeah, it's been fun to play with for sure, and definitely a useful tool to learn.
Totally, and it's crazy that it's free as well. I think everyone should download it and learn. Like, it should be like Excel or Doc.
Absolutely, just for camera switching. It's like, it's so easy to impress your friends in Zoom meeting with OBS. But totally. Beyond that, it's, I do streaming as well, professionally for sports and that. And unfortunately, lately, funerals, because sports are shut down. But it's definitely a great tool.
Have you used any of the paid ones, like VMix or?
No, I haven't. And Although I think one of them, I forget the name of it, Split. I think I got a free year of subscription with my motherboard or some component I bought on my computer upgrade. But there are a lot. The things I pay for, like you talk about assets, so like I subscribe to Motion Array, which is where I found the guy in the hazmat suit. They've got a lot of stock stuff. They've really improved what they have, but I
Right.
use it for a lot of Premiere and After Effects templates. Um, so that's actually my latest subscription I might go for is YouTube Premium. I tried the 1 month free trial and like, oh my God, no ads. It's amazing. And plus it has the music.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, get rid of Spotify and just use YouTube.
It's pretty awesome. I got YouTube Premium originally because I worked on the soundtrack for a show that was made by YouTube. It was a show that the Sadies did the soundtrack for it. It's called Dallas and Robo, and it was a YouTube Premium special. So I ended up getting it just to be able to watch it there. And then, yeah, like you said, the fact that
Then you're
there's no
hooked.
ads, no ads, and also in my case, on iPhones, you don't get the picture in picture or the still playing in the background when you lock it. So yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense,
The other thing I've subscribed to is Vimeo Premium,
right?
because when I started streaming funerals, um, the first one I did was to YouTube, and I was, there's copyright issues all over the place, right? So Vimeo Premium wouldn't strike any of that. And then after the stream, if I wanted to replace it, I could just replace it without replacing the link,
Right.
which is super handy thing to do. So those are my big subscriptions right now are Vimeo Premium, Motion Array for assets, and well, actually a live view solo for bonded cellular streaming,
Hmm.
and it's been great.
Sweet. Yeah, I know this whole streaming thing makes you able to have a lot of different, things that normally you wouldn't have bought on your own. But then, yeah, when I was doing my taxes and looking at the amount of, because I have Tidal and Spotify and YouTube Premium and Splice and yeah, it's like on audio plugins and all that stuff. It's a lot of money at
Yeah,
the
it
end of
had,
the day,
and
for sure.
my wife does our books, so she's always asking me, "What's this one?" And like software, plugin, a lot of that.
Totally, totally. Sweet. Well, that looks great, Randy. Thanks for sharing.
Well, I'm hoping to get into some music streaming this summer if things opening up. I live in Aurora. I'm got into these webinars of yours because of the Aurora Winter Blues Festival and
Hmm.
Music Aurora. So it's been handy to see, and I hope to get out in the parks and do some streaming this summer once things open up.
Fingers crossed. Sweet. Hey, Brian.
Hi.
Looking great there too.
You can see my background. I'm experimenting with the green screen. Can you hear my voice too?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear your voice.
Because I'm going through the Loopback and a lot of stuff. So you see that doorway on my background. Now, if I wanted to have a guest on my stream, and I wanted to have a little window, and I wanted it not exactly a rectangle, I wanted to like shape it the same way as that doorway. Is that something I could do?
Yeah, yeah. So using again like that program, what is it called? I keep forgetting the name. Inkscape or Photoshop or anything. You just need to create a mask. You just need to create a black image basically that looks exactly like that exact same shape. So you can actually grab that picture you have, bring it into one of those programs, black it out basically, and then save that as a separate image, and then you can put it as a mask on top of the video person that you're bringing, and then that would make it so that that video source is exactly the same shape.
And I wonder if I could even have a transition where it kind of, the door sort of opens, or that's pushing it a bit, isn't it?
That would be a bit more complicated, but it's doable. Yeah, sure.
That
You would have
sliding, I've seen some effects like that where it's kind of a sliding thing or whatever. It could approximate it, eh?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. On OBS, you can create different transitions, and those transitions can be video stinks as well. So you would have to sort of animate that video, that the door moving. That's the only part that I might find a bit complicated. Mainly because it's gonna be in different places, you know. Like I would imagine you could probably do something like that in Blender, which is this awesome program that allows you to draw 3D thing. I've been drawing a donut for the past month, I think. It's the first example they give you. And then, yeah, you can create anything there. So in theory, you would be able to animate, to make a video that has that background where that same door opens and the perspective changes. That's the hard part, is doing the tracking of that, the motion tracking of that. But not crazy, you know. It's definitely doable. It would probably take you a few days, I imagine.
We could approximate it anyway. Well, I'm going to check out this motion array because it sounds like that's something I could use to have like some text pop up out of the screen, or animated text, and stuff like that. So I'm going to, I wanted to have a little bit more movement with the text.
Totally. Yeah, Randy there is showing now some of those. I don't know if you can see his screen, but
I don't. I just see me. But let me tell you one last little adventure I just had on my last stream. A tip, I guess. I went to Facebook to create an event on Facebook, and then on the event page it said, "Are you going to be doing a live video?" And I went, "Yes." But really, I think I should have said no, because I was streaming from OBS. So Facebook thought I was going to be just doing it all live video straight directly to Facebook. And because I went through OBS, anybody that had signed up on the Facebook event never saw. I never went live, you know, according to them, because I guess I used another entrance. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, but it's still possible to do that through OBS. You would have just have to make sure that when you're on the producer page, you are actually, yeah, you're addressed or linked up to the exact same RTMP destination, basically.
With the stream key.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I didn't do.
Right. Oh yeah, those, you know, everything I know because, like, most of the things I know because I've made that mistake once, and now you just learn it, you know?
Last week, what happened to you was something that happened to me on a live funeral stream. It was that audio loop you had.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my laptop running a slideshow going into my ATEM Mini. I use one of these, and that's going into my live view and streaming. And so the family said, "Oh, we have a slideshow," and so I said, "Do you have it on a USB?" So they did, and it was so I copied it to my laptop and I played it, and I used my Blackmagic to show it during the stream. But I also had Vimeo open in the background, which was monitoring my stream, like, because at the beginning I want to make sure it's all running, right?
Right.
So I'm playing their video, and then on the Vimeo, it's coming out the background. And every iteration through, it gets another layer on top of it. And until after a couple of minutes, it was like somebody's like, "Randy, something's going on with the stream." I go, "Oh, wait." You know, so, you know, learn the hard way. It's, if you're going to stream something from another device, maybe just get a second device to do it. So you're not, so all the things I have to do to produce a show, like monitor Vimeo, change a setting, is totally separate from whatever media I'm trying to stream from the client.
Totally.
So learn that one.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been a regular at Aurora Winter Blues, by the way. I miss it this winter, I guess, but you're going to be back?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Greg Smith and the boys in about a month. I play in a local band called Soul Benefit. Maybe you've seen us. We used to be called the Thursday Night Jam.
Oh, I don't think so. But I've seen some great shows that you put on there at the Aurora Winter Blues. I look forward to seeing that again.
Yeah, I know. It's too bad 2 years in a row it's been canceled.
You have stuff going on in the summer in parks, you said?
Well, the town of Aurora usually has events, Wednesday night concerts in the park. And I wouldn't be surprised if this year, if Music Aurora has their own weekend event, and maybe that gets streamed. They used to have that, and then Newmarket used to have their jazz festival thing, but then they stopped doing that last year as well. So I think this summer is a bit of an unknown, but probably for sure the concerts in the park will continue.
Oh, thanks for the info. And thank you, Guillermo. You're fabulous. I've been...
Yeah, thank you all, everyone. I guess we're a little bit over time here, so thank you all so much for your contributions. You know, this has been, thank you, Guillermo, very, very, you know, so much information and so much to learn, I guess, for everyone. Yeah, we shall see you on the next Tuesday for the last session.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
See you then. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.